Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Detail Rag Podcast. We are episode number 57 with Hunter Johnson, aka the Bearded Hunter. Hunter, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I know that we kind of crossed paths through Justin from Mountain Town Detail. Okay. Tell us a little bit about who Hunter is and where's Hunter come from? How'd you get into the detailing industry?
Sure. Yeah. So, my detailing journey started back when I got my first car when I was 16, and I was like, you know what, my maroon 1997 Ford Expedition, and I was like, I want to get this thing looking so good. I want it to be the cleanest, shiniest car in the high school parking lot. And so I would go down to my local Napa Auto Parts, and I was like, oh, let me go. I'd walk past the dusty shelf of old Meguiar's and Turtle Wax stuff, and so it was kind of where it sparked my interest of wanting to keep my car clean and look good, and which later I think translated into wanting to maintain my vehicle and just keep it to its the highest standard possible. But it's been washing cars has been there for a long time, but
Sure.
it was about 8 years ago, give or take, that I kind of was like, okay, you know what, I kind of want to do a little more like thorough detail and get into it a little more. And so started there, had my first customer was a friend of mine it was when the Tesla Model S's first came out, and he was like, hey, you want to detail my Tesla? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
What cooler car to get to details like your first customer car? And so kind of the love started. And I think way undercharged and spent way too long on what I did, but as most people do in the beginning. And it just kind of really has snowballed from there. And to where now I'm detailing on the weekends, and have a couple like returning clients that come back once every couple months or so. And but for the most part, it's just a weekend thing that has really become my passion. That whether it's the procedures, the products, the people, the detailing industry as a whole it's just so cool to see how it's grown and how it continues to shift and change. And so it's been really, really fun. But
yeah. So did you so I'm just guessing you have a full-time job?
I do.
You want to tell people what you do?
Sure. Yeah. So I work for a title company, like Home
Okay.
Titles. Old Republic Title is the company that I work for.
Okay.
And so I'm on the national marketing team for them.
Nice.
So I do a little bit of design work, some email marketing, and then I'm primarily printing and shipping marketing materials. And so I have an 18-foot long printer named Betsy. And which, thanks to her, I get the biggest office out of all of us in our office, because I need an 18-foot long wall, or really a 20-foot long wall to hold the printer.
Nice.
But and so I'm printing postcards, flyers, pamphlets, books, you name it. And so it's like we have there's probably 50 of us on our team across the US.
Okay.
And as far as Hawaii to you name it, we're a little bit of everywhere. And so we have a team of designers that'll design something, and then they'll kick it over to me, and I'll bring it to life and ship it out. And so
interesting.
Yeah.
So we did not talk about this earlier, but we will when this podcast is over. You and I are gonna have a conversation, because I spent 17 years in commercial printing.
Really? Okay.
My dad owned a printing company. So
no way. Wow. That's cool.
So, but anyway, how did you where was the breaking point for you? I don't want to say the breaking point. That doesn't sound good. I'm sorry. Where was the point in time in your life when detailing became something a little bit more of a passion?
Sure.
Than just, how did you just start following people on social media and just growing with it that way? Or was there somebody local that you were paying attention to, or where'd that all come about?
Really, social media was the biggest part. Whether like between social media, whether it was Instagram, at that point it was really YouTube was the biggest thing. I was watching a lot of Larry Casilla with Ammo NYC, and some of those detailers that have been around in the space for a while. And I was it really started out as like a watching this super satisfying cleaning videos. I'm like, oh, that's so satisfying, which then later kind of translated into, I was like, oh, I can do that. Like I love washing my car. Why can't I become just a little more detail oriented in that way or this way, and try this this brush and this procedure versus X, Y, and Z to get a little bit better result. And so I'm definitely, I'd say I have a little OCD here and there as far as like how meticulous I am with certain things. You can ask my fiance; she'll tell you I'm definitely a little meticulous or particular sometimes. But I think it's a great outlet. I think for me just to be able to focus on something. It allows me to honestly to relax. Detailing is very relaxing to me, and so getting to relax and just one-on-one time, like kind of really hard focus on one thing and get the job done. But
So let me ask you something here real quick. What, because it's something I didn't touch on. Is you're located in Texas?
Yeah, I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the detailing climate like there?
You have some really good, honestly, it's pretty poppin'. You have a really good, I'd say, core base of established detail shops, and then some that have been kind of popping up over the last couple of years, but a lot of mobile guys, a whole lot of mobile. Most of the guys around here have, they'll pull a trailer with the truck, have a full setup on the trailer, or, some of them have the little Ford vans and things like that. But a lot of mobile guys. But it's been really cool. I haven't, for what I feel like I'm pretty involved in the detail scene as far as a whole now, but don't feel necessarily as involved in the San Antonio, South Texas kind of region per se. But it's been really good. Everybody that I've come across or that I've met has been super nice, and everybody seems to be really cool.
That's awesome. I don't think I'm here in Ohio, and our wintertime is just not conducive to mobile people, right? So I do both. I have a shop here at home, and then I do mobile. Nice. But I feel like in warmer climates, you probably see a lot more mobile guys because it's just that barrier to entry is just so much lower, in my opinion.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's easier for guys to get started. Now, I think in my area, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I think in my area, it's more likely that people are going to come and go.
Oh, totally.
So, but anyway, so in your past, what's kind of led you to where you're at now, other than what you've already told us? But I mean, do you see yourself? Do you ever think you want to detail full time?
So to answer the first part of the question, I spent a lot of my working time as, first jobs till, gosh, I mean, even technically now some of my job is customer service, but I had a lot of customer service background. So, I worked for Old Navy in the HEB grocery store here in Texas. And then after that, I went on and I managed a coffee shop. And so it was like a lot of customer service. The managerial side of the coffee shop stuff was actually, it was very valuable, just skill set, learning craft, honing my skills as far as managing people and, doing payroll and all that kind of stuff, and managing the inventory side of things. And all of that was so beneficial. And so to go from that to what I'm doing now, allowing more of the creative side, still customer service, because we still deal with a lot of customers, but a little different. I've always been a very people focused person, I'm pretty outgoing, pretty jolly guy. And so
can't tell that at all. Can't tell that at all.
But it's so easy to talk to people. And I say you could throw me in front of a microphone and in a crowd of people and I'll wing it, I'll handle it, it'll be fine. And so taking all of that to, the detail space was really fun because, I feel like sometimes people are great at hey, I can provide this service. I'm really great at that service. But sometimes there's a disconnect between the customer to trying to convey to the client, hey, this is what to expect. This is what I can do. This is what I can't do. Right. And so, that helped a lot filling kind of that gap. Do I see myself doing it full time? Not necessarily. Okay. I love detailing to its core, everything about it. The physical act of it and all of that. I think where I kind of lean a little more is more of the product side of things. And so I think it would be really fun to work for a product company to do, to teach people how to use products. Because a part of my time at the coffee shop was being a trainer teaching people how to make coffee and do all of that. So it was a lot of fun having the one-on-one or like group class type stuff of teaching people how to use things. And so I think the same would apply as far as products go. Getting to, do demos and teach people how to use stuff is kind of fun, and teach them tips and tricks that they may not know, that can, help them in the long run. So,
because I think that's the interesting thing for me is it's funny. And I don't mean to be harsh about this, but I mean, it's one of those things where all of us have certain things that we do that is different than what other people do. And sometimes I've even like talking to people like you, I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. No, I'm going to try it and see what happens. Right. And you have to open up your mind a little bit enough to actually go out into the garage or out in the driveway or whatever and try something that someone else is doing just to see, does this work for me? Does it not work for me?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why I love doing the podcast, is because I've learned a lot of different things from a lot of different people, and things that I may or may not have thought of on my own. Maybe eventually I might have gotten there, but who knows?
Yeah.
So, but do you think, and that's one thing that you talked about, the disconnect between probably the first initial conversation that you have with a customer and getting the work done, and then another conversation afterwards. I feel like, and we all talk about the, I just lost my train of thought. I apologize. We all talk about the setting expectations. Oh, there it is. So when you go into your very first conversation with somebody, what do you think is the most important thing for you to relay to your customer about setting expectations?
Sure. I always strive to under promise and over deliver. And so
Absolutely.
in every way, shape, and form of my life, whatever I'm doing, I try to under promise, over deliver, but especially with the detailing. And so, someone comes in with some really just rough looking cloth seats, and they're like, hey, I want to get these perfect. And I'm like, well, how long have they been like this? And you're like, oh, like 5 years. It's no big deal. I'm like, okay, let me just be straight with you, but in a kind way of like, I will work my magic and I will get these seats to the best of my ability.
Sure.
Will they be perfect? Probably not. I was like, but I try to be real with them on the fact of like, hey, these are, whatever certain areas that as I'm picking their brain, figuring out, hey, what are you looking for? Because they may see, oh, there's always someone who's like, oh, I want my car detailed and like, all the paint touch-ups and all these things. And I'm like, I don't touch up paint. My job isn't the restoration side from that aspect. My job is get it clean and protect it. So, making sure they understand from the beginning, hey, this is what you're getting in whatever package they choose. And also, this is probably the level that I can take it. Even with like paint correction, it's like, I asked them, do you want to chase perfection with this?
Right.
Do you want to just take the paint to 80%? Are we just going for major defects? Or are we just trying to, give it just a single stage, light polish to jewel the paint back out without really removing any clear coat?
Right.
And so trying to set those expectations of, hey, this is kind of where we're going to go with this, or where you want to go. And, especially with like seats or things like that, I'm like, hey, I can't guarantee that's going to come out. I'll do my best. And then, so, usually once it's all said and done, I may not have gotten it all out, but it's looking significantly better than what it was, to the point of where they're usually always at least satisfied, if not blown away with the results. And so,
and I find it, at least for me, I don't know how it is for you, because for guys like you and I, that we don't do it full time, we don't have a shop, right?
Yeah.
Quote unquote, we don't have a shop. It's difficult without, like, I get a lot of people who just call. Like, I had 2 calls today where I wasn't real keen on this from the very beginning, but I started giving people a price range, right? Because without seeing the vehicle, it's very difficult for you and I to, to narrow down a price.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that people kind of like that. They're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
How often do you see the vehicle before you do it?
So I always request photos of the vehicle. I tell them, I'm like, hey, because they're like, what would the price be? And I'm like, well, can you send me some photos first? And, inside, outside, and I'll kind of give them some pointers, like, a couple pictures of the wheels or the center console, the seats, the driver floorboard, things like that, just so that way I can get an idea of, a little better idea of what it looks like. Because usually it's always worse in person than it is in photos. No matter how many photos they send you, it's usually always a little bit worse. And so, so they send me photos, and I'm like, cool. If you want X, Y, and Z done, here's your price. And so, yeah, so there's been a few times where I don't see photos, and they're like, oh, it's really not that bad. I'm like, usually if someone says it's not that bad, it's worse than what it is. And so, there's always going to be a couple times where you undercharge, but
I'm laughing right now, and I apologize. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at me, because I have a lot of people drop their vehicles off the night before, and I go out and look at it, and then I come back in. I go, "Oh, it's not that bad." And my wife, she'll go, "Oh yeah, you say that every time."
Mhm.
And then the next day, you're all frustrated because,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
you're 4 hours deep on the inside, and you've
yeah,
barely made a dent.
and you're like, "Oh, it's not that bad."
Yeah.
So my wife will go, yeah, she shakes her head and walks away. So,
Yeah.
but do you talk a little bit about the and I know I'm kind of skipping around. I don't mean to skip around, but I want to learn more about you. I want people to learn more about you. I guess right now I should tell everybody that you want to work for a product manufacturing company. So if there's anybody out there that's listening, Hunter's ready to go. We'll give you a plug out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So talk to me a little bit about the Grand Ambassador program,
Sure.
how that all got started, how you evolved through it, and tell everybody what happened there.
Sure. Yeah. So, when I was early into my quote unquote detailing career, it was, I came across the Rag Company. I don't know if it was YouTube stuff, their podcast, or just found I may have just searched microfiber towels and their website came up. And so I kind of got sucked into the world of the Rag Company and just their following that is very vast and really fun. And so,
Yeah.
as I have a shirt on right now. And so, getting into that, and I was like, oh, they do this thing called the Grand Ambassador program. Like, that's kind of cool. And at that point, I think I had maybe 600 followers on Instagram, and I wasn't looking, for a sponsorship or anything like that. I was just
Right.
trying to get my feet wet in the industry. And as I was kind of, I love photography, and so my Instagram was primarily, just my random life or photography stuff. And so kind of when I first found out about the Grand Ambassador program, my Instagram feed was just cars. It was just, I'd go to Cars and Coffee on a Saturday or something like that, and I would just take photos. And so that was my Instagram. It was nothing detail related. It was just cars.
Nice.
And so when I found out that the Grand Ambassador program was a thing, and they're like, hey, it's all about, what you're posting, the consistency of your posting, your engagement, all of that. I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was like, but there's no way I could do that with this account because there's nothing detail related. And so when I heard that the next, so this was beginning of 2022, and the first quarter had kicked off. They choose 10 people every quarter. And so the first quarter kicked off, and I was like, this would be kind of cool. I'd like to apply for this. I think this would be kind of fun. And so I was like, I better get it in gear and kind of change what I'm posting. And so immediately started posting detailed content more than just cars, and having to, post more video content rather than just photos. And so
Right.
really kind of, changing my game plan as far as what Instagram was for me. And so come the almost the beginning of Q2 of 2022, applications opened again. And so also for those of you that don't know what the Grand Ambassador program is for the Rag Company, it is and now it's actually a trimester system versus a quarter. And so every trimester or every trimester they have, I believe it's still, is it 10 people still? But then anyways, for me, it was every quarter they would pick 10 people. And so the applications would open, a bunch of people would apply. I think at some points you'd have like 200 applicants at one time. And so they'd go through and pick who they thought were the 10 best candidates to represent the Rag Company the best.
Okay.
And you didn't have to have a certain follower requirement or anything like that. It was like, hey, are you posting detailing content? Is it good content? And, are you consistent? That was some of the big criteria. And so,
Okay.
I was like, cool, let me just try. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get it. first time, there were some people that I'd heard of that had applied several times and still hadn't gotten chosen. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just try. No harm, no foul. So I feel like my Instagram was in a good place. I had a lot of good content, and so I applied, and I got chosen as one of the 10 for Q2 2022. And so I was like, oh, this is crazy, yeah. And so what they do is they'll send you a care package, and so it really was 2 huge boxes. And so we got a bunch of towels and some chemicals and some accessories and things like that. And so it's really stuff for us to try to help us create content to push the products that the rag company sells.
Sure.
And ultimately you're representing a microfiber towel company, so got a lot of microfiber towels to teach people about and for us to get hands on with. Because I had tried maybe half a dozen different types of towels, but I got some that I'm like, I didn't know this even existed. This is really cool. And so the the goal is you run for that quarter. And so you get a discount code for your followers. And then so we're any content that we make with their products, then they'll reshare it on their page. And so did that for Q2 of 2022. And then at the end of each year, they would pick a Grand Ambassador of the Year. And so out of those, those 4 quarters, they would pick one person as like the end all be all, the winner for the year, the champion. Perfect. And so that year it was Bradley. He's down in Florida. And so out of, from the winner, then they also pick a handful of runner-ups. And so I think there was like 3 of us. And for me, I got best photo, understandably, as I do photography on the side and all of that. But and so that was 2022 for me, was kind of getting my feet wet into kind of launched me into the industry a whole lot more than I expected it to, because of, for me, it's just, I'll post something and hope that the rag company or another company would share it. That I knew 1 or 2 people in the detailing industry in some aspect. And so after the Grand Ambassador program that year, I was this whole, really getting thrown into the community, meeting so many people that I hadn't met before. And honestly, that's my favorite part of the Grand Ambassador program. It's just getting to meet people. Like it's the relationships you build is crazy. Just, and even the span of, a quarter of a year, it's wild. And so
it's awesome.
It was really cool. And so fast forward to the basically like halfway through 2023, they decided to do a head-to-head showdown with some of the runner-ups over the last 4 years. And so they opened applications again. There were 16 of us, I believe. And so they chose 6 out of that 16 to be the head-to-head finalists for another Grand Ambassador of the Year showdown. And so got to go through it again for the almost the last half of the year of 2023. And so they chose a winner. They chose Jamie the Cleaner from Louisiana. And so it was just another really fantastic opportunity to
that Jamie guy he's something else.
Yeah, such a great guy. I actually get to meet him next month, so I'm really stoked to get to hang out with him. So
excellent.
So that's kind of my time as a Grand Ambassador and what it's like, being a Grand Ambassador for the rag company. But just a really cool experience.
Good for you. What do you think? And this is off the top of my head. What do you think your favorite, and there's tons, but what do you think one of your favorite rag company videos is?
Oh gosh. Oh man.
Is there one like me? There's 2 that I watch over and over and over again. So, if you're out there running numbers, it's probably half of them are mine. But so what would yours be?
Oh gosh, that's tough. I think some of the stuff, I loved a lot of like the live stream, like demos, if you will, of them washing a car and just talking or whatever. Some of the old stuff that I used to go back and watch several times were when they had the rag Cobra, the old Shelby Cobra. And so they were always doing stuff with the rag Cobra. And so I think those are some of my favorite videos when I was just kind of getting introduced to the rag company. And so, I love those a lot.
So I probably am, I'm probably an extremist when it comes to rinseless washing. And I'm just going to be honest with you. One of my favorite videos is where Levi does the big dually.
Yeah.
Because I try to explain to people over and over and over again what the product is capable of if you know what you're doing with it. And I don't know, that one. And then when Anthony does the wheels, it's I don't know what I'm saying, right? But when the 2 of them both did I guess it was a live stream where it's about a half hour long where they both do, the rinseless washing and they're kind of not racing each other, but they kind of are.
Yeah.
I watched that one over and over again too. I don't know. It's just fun for me.
Yeah.
So where do you think, first of all, before we step into something else, give me a tip or give everybody a tip about what they might want to focus on if they would like to get into the Grand Ambassador program.
Sure.
What do you think, in your opinion, what is?
So, I mean, right now, just Instagram as a whole is very reel focused. So, just getting inundated with a lot of content that are reels more so than photos. And so,
Right.
For us in the second go around, it was part of it for us was having to make a lot of real content. And so, really forcing myself into the mindset of, hey, when I'm out here washing a car or doing a full detail, instead of just taking a second to take a photo of something, I'm having to think a little more, okay, how can I set up some shots to make an engaging reel? And so, that part, and then just the consistency. I mean,
Right.
anybody can make content with any kind of camera. I mean, whether it's your phone or it's a $4,000 camera, you name it, it doesn't matter. You can, as long as you have a camera, the old photography saying is the best camera you have is the one you have on you. So it's like,
Right.
whatever you have your phone, bust out your phone. Cool. Get a quick 15-second clip of you washing a wheel. That could be it. Throw that on a reel, throw it with some music, and you got a reel. And so I think not overcomplicating it and then just being consistent with it. So creating a good quality reel and being consistent with your posting.
So let's go into the future hunter.
Okay.
Where do we think the future hunter is going to end up?
Oh man. I ask myself that all the time.
Okay. So where does the future hunter want to end up?
Sure.
Where do you want to end up?
Yeah. So kind of like what I mentioned with the product side of things, working with people with products, I think, I've had some really cool opportunities within the last, 6 months, really. I got to go to SEMA this past year, and which was so cool. A literal bucket list item of mine. I was like, maybe one day I'll get to go. And so I got the opportunity to go to SEMA to work with Coach Kimmy and to do work at their booth and do demos throughout the week. And so, that I think I'm really looking forward to more relationships like that, getting to work with companies. And I don't know. I think I would like to see myself to fully step into the detailing industry. So get out of the, the marketing side of things for a title company and to step fully into the detail world. And so whether that works.
Are you saying that marketing for a title company is not near as fun as the detailing industry?
No, it's not. Is it fun? Yes. And is it, can it be creative? Totally. Does it also give me time outside of my normal job to do the things that I love with detailing? Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And so it's a good work-life balance. It's not too stressful. It's fun, which I'm very thankful for, that I have been able to do the detailing things that I've gotten to do outside of my job. But
I think sometimes I got to take a step back and go, you know what? I'm not even remotely involved as much as I'd like to be, but I just feel blessed that I'm as involved as I am.
Yeah.
Definitely. And this year has proven, and I'm just going to throw this out there. And I've thanked you for doing this tonight. And I really do appreciate it, because like I said earlier, it's just a little dream that I have. And without people like you, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But this year has been one of those things where there's been a couple of different people that have reached out to me that I thought, holy cow, that's this, what is happening? Because, so, but let's step into just a little bit here. And I'm just going off the fact that, you and I just met, a couple hours ago or so. And I feel like you're a super upbeat guy. And I love that about you. But what I want to know is what would you say to somebody that wants to get started in the detailing industry? And I mean, what would you say to them? What are some hurdles that you think they might have to not overlook, but just work a little harder to get over to get where they might want to be? What would you tell the next person in line to?
I would say, don't compare yourself to, the industry, like the people in the industry. Like what I mean by that is, especially if you're just starting out and you see, you watch a YouTuber like Larry Cassillo. In my case, that was my Like that was my biggest influence by far, detailing. And so it was like, I always looked up to Larry and I was like, dude, this guy is amazing. Like he's getting to work on these multi-million-dollar one-off cars. He now has his own product line. Like, this is crazy. This is so cool. And I was like, man, maybe one day. And then I'm like, oh, I don't even get paid to wash cars. I mean, I get to wash my own car. That's all I get to do. And then I see somebody else and I'm like, oh, they have a mobile van, like a mobile setup. That's really cool. And they get to, they're making good money. They're enjoying what they're doing. And so I'm like, oh, I just don't know if I could ever do that. Or I'm like, I had to stop the comparison of, well, I'm not that person. Like I'm Hunter. And so what can I do to better myself to further progress, my skills or just me as a person? And so, yes, I took a lot of inspiration and creativity and the things that people were doing to help me, whether it was in social media or learning tips and tricks on how to clean a car a little bit better, but not so much so that I was, having to compare myself to the next person of like, they're just better than I am, and beating myself up for not being to that level. And so, I mean, it's taken me years to get to the point that I'm at now. And I don't even feel like I'm remotely close to, some of the heavy hitters out there. I still feel like I'm a scrub sometimes, but just honestly enjoying what you do, whether it's, just detailing all the time, or in my case, on the weekends when I have free time. And so, enjoying that and enjoying those moments and not feeling like, while you're doing that and then looking off, in the distance of somebody else doing something cooler. And I'm like, okay, be in the moment, enjoy the moment, focus on that, and then learn how to make yourself a better person in that moment and then move forward. And so,
and I think that's tough for a lot of people, like especially me, because I grew up, the whole social media thing for me over the past, however many years has been super new for me, because like when I was a kid and like we would go out and play baseball in somebody's backyard, you were always, I want to be so-and-so, I want to be, this baseball player, I want to be that baseball player. So, and to me, that's how I was raised, in a situation where I was pretty much going to compare myself to whoever I wanted to be at the time. Right. And so me learning to be just me and who I am and having fun with that has been a huge challenge for me. And I have to keep in mind that, just like with this podcast, I'm going to draw the people that are going to be drawn to me. And that's, it's going to happen. Stop trying to be somebody else. So, but, well, do you think, do you have any, and we've already touched on this just a little bit about the full-time detailing. Would you ever consider full-time detailing, or just you want to head into the product line?
I think more just the product side. I think I could see myself burning out a little bit more if I was doing it full time. I think it's, I'm the type of person where whatever I'm doing, I go all into it. I give it everything I have all the time until I basically burn myself out. And so I'm not the best at kind of limiting, pacing myself a little bit in that regard sometimes. And so I think from that standpoint of like the wear and tear of, oh, there goes my camera. I lost it.
Lost your camera.
Yep. It said battery exhausted and it's plugged in. That's fun. So sorry.
Keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. So I think from the standpoint of getting to work with a company and people, still getting to do the detailing side of that and the physical active detailing, but not from a standpoint of like doing it so much that I'm going to burn myself out in that way. And so, that's kind of, where I see myself as far as full-time. I think in the industry and the product side of things, and still doing it, in showing people how to use stuff. Totally. Just not in the, from an 8 to 5 every day, I'm going to be in a garage working on, as many cars as I can to come through and get them cleaned and sent out. Not necessarily. So,
So Hunter, what can you do about the camera? Can you plug it
give
in,
me just a second. Let me grab another battery. Hang on a second. Let me grab a battery.
No worries. So ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and Hunter had a little camera issue, battery issue. Well, those obviously are not Milwaukee batteries. I'm like,
no, they're not. They're definitely not.
So now that we've had that little technical difficulty, which is awesome because, and it's this is just another thing for me too, is that, and I know a lot of people would argue this, but I don't ever edit anything. I haven't figured that out yet. And it's just one of those things where I want things to be raw and real, so I don't get into that.
Yeah.
I know it's probably stupid. I probably should, but
no.
So anyway, you're back. I forget what we were talking about, so let's just continue on. And we were talking about the future, the future of Hunter. But excuse me. So, do you think? What do you think one of the biggest hurdles is for a person in this industry? Just what do you think a big hurdle is that maybe if they're listening, maybe you might have some advice for them? What do you, is it the detailing end of it, or do you think it's the business end of it?
I think it's probably a little more of the business side rather than the detailing. I think, once you get to a point where you're comfortable with your skill set, you're comfortable with your results, you're happy with how cars are coming out, when things come in and you know how to handle it, I think that's, your work really will begin to speak for itself. And so the business side, I think more so is like the marketing side of things where, especially in San Antonio, I've seen a lot of young guys starting out and they'll start posting on social media or stuff, things like that. But it's not a strategic, hey, this is kind of my plan of attack as far as marketing goes to get my image out there for people to see my brand, who I am, and then the results, speak for themselves. And so
if you had to tell somebody something that's getting started in the business right now, and they have some detailing skills behind them, do you think marketing would be the first business thing that you would? I mean, because if you don't have customers, you don't have a business,
right? Yeah, and I'm not the best, I would say, at the whole business side. That's still learning every day what that kind of looks like. But from the marketing standpoint, I'm like, don't spam people, don't overload people with a bunch of just random, like, hey, need your car detailed, I'm so and so, come to me, like I'm the best in town. Like, don't say that. Just be like, hey, here, you just looking for your car to get cleaned, throw up a good couple before and after photos, but be friendly. And what was the word I'm looking for? I lost my train of thought. Was the
see, I've rubbed off on you.
Yeah.
This is bad.
But like just be strategic about it, because there's times where, and also that's where I was going, was don't be afraid to do a couple not lose money, but if you have to, like I said, everybody starts out a little bit they may undercharge a little bit, or if you do, and really in any industry, any skill set, any trade, somebody's like, oh, you may have to do a couple free details or super, like a heavily discounted detail just to bring in some clients. And I'm like, I understand that. And definitely, have I done those? Totally. And for me, doing this as a part-time thing, it's allowed me the ability to bless people in that way, of like somebody who may just not have the funds to get their car cleaned, or I had a family member pass away and have inherited their car and want to drive the car, but it's just a little rough. And so I'm like, hey, bring it to me. I just want to gift you this detail. Like, so things like that has allowed me to do. And so in the same way, in the business sense of, don't be afraid to do a, hey, 20% discount on, this service, that service. Like, let me, bring it to me. You just want, all you can afford is to get the interior cleaned up. Great. I'm also going to wash the outside, and I might even throw a little topper on the paint just as an added bonus, just to, one, the customer is just ecstatic. They're like, oh, this looks amazing. And then they're going to tell their friends. And for me, word of mouth has been by far the biggest, business, the biggest influx of customers. And so getting somebody excited about what's happened to their car, the transformation. And so just getting people to pass along the word. And so
I still think that face-to-face interaction is one of the best qualities of marketing that you can have, is because people get to know you, they get to trust you, they get to kind of see what you're going to do, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So before we head out of here, first of all, tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure. So Instagram is just _bearded hunter. That's really my main point of contact. Social media,
Okay.
that's where I post. I do
That's
have
why
a
I put it
YouTube
down here at the
channel.
bottom.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a YouTube channel. It's also The Bearded Hunter. I don't post on there very often. It's very, very seldom that I do, but every once in a while I'll throw up a video
Okay.
on there. But so yeah, really just Instagram is the
Okay. Just
underscore bearded
Instagram.
hunter, and that's where you can find me.
Perfect. So before we head out, open forum right now. Just tell something that you want to share with people. Share it, and let's get it out there and see what happens.
Okay. Don't be afraid to take a chance. I think when, whether you're learning how to clean something a little better or you're wanting to get into the industry, you're wanting to meet people, don't be afraid to take the chance to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and just give it a try. The worst that you can do is that, nothing comes from it. But don't be afraid to take a step out, whether it's, like, hey, I just need to step in front of the camera and I need to talk to the camera about the industry or people or just how your day was. Don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable when, talking to people. Or like for me, I don't mind stepping in front of a camera and just talking. And so being 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 comfortable enough to be yourself. Don't try to, when we talked about comparing to other people,
Yeah.
don't feel like you need to put on a face or a mask of like, hey, I know this other person who's really successful is this way. Don't try to be like them. Be yourself. And like what you said, people are going to come. You're going to attract the people that find you interesting, that can relate to who you are in your life and your topics. And so be yourself, but also don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and give something new a try.
Awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, that is advice from Hunter Johnson, the underscore bearded hunter. Hey, appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Hang out for a minute.
Sure.
And we'll talk again. Ladies and gentlemen, again, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you guys giving Hunter a little love, and go into his YouTube channel, check out his Instagram. Again, help support the Detail Rag. There's links in my Instagram bio. You can buy some merch. You can buy me a coffee, whatever you want to do. Super appreciate that. Hunter, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Again, appreciate all of this. And it's been great getting to talk to you. And I'm sure we can do it again sometime.
Definitely. Sounds good to me.
Guys, episode 57, Hunter Johnson. Appreciate you. Guys, we'll talk to you later and continue to share the shine. Have a good night.
Thanks.